Hello everyone, and welcome to our discussion on the optional QuickQuote module in Design Manager. My name is Brad and I'll be hosting the demonstration today. If you have questions during the webinar, feel free to enter them into the questions pane under GoToWebinar panel. If the question is outside of the scope of today's discussion, please email them to support@designmanager.com. And lastly, if you miss a portion of the webinar or want to review any of our past discussions, you can always go to our YouTube channel at Design Manager Inc., Design Manager INC, and you can see any of our past discussions and tutorials, and you can even see all of our weekly webinars that you can review at your leisure. Okay. Now, today's webinar is going to be focusing on the optional QuickQuote module in Design Manager, which provides an extremely accurate and efficient way of designing any fabricated good that you're providing to your client. Window treatments, pillows and cushions, placemats, etc. Essentially, QuickQuote allows you to select a predefined treatment from a catalog of literally thousands of choices and even create your own for historical reference or future use with another client. Upon doing so, QuickQuote's going to display all of the fabric, accessories, labor, etc. necessary to create the treatment so you don't miss any critical component. Upon completing the treatment in QuickQuote, then you just export the treatment to the desired project, and you can make your proposal, purchase and work orders, just as you already do in Design Manager. Now, as you know, an incredible amount of detail is needed for a window treatment, which can result in a good deal of intricate data entry. For example, let's take a look at one of our projects here. Here's a window treatment. Now, just to create this throw shag treatment, look at all the multitude of components necessary to do so. Tons. Now, can all of these be entered manually? Of course, but that requires precious time, and there's no checks and balances to ensure that you don't miss any necessary information. And that's where QuickQuote comes in. So let's see how QuickQuote can help us develop our treatments. In Design Manager Cloud, QuickQuote is accessed by going to your project and specifications and clicking the QuickQuote button. And there you go. In the professional platform, you also go to your specifications window and click the QuickQuote button. Now, as the QuickQuote module is nearly identical in both Design Manager Cloud and Design Manager Professional Cloud, I'm going to focus mainly on Professional Cloud for our demonstration today. So let's switch projects here. Let's go to our Hilson project and go ahead and click the QuickQuote button. And there we go. Make that a little bigger for everyone. The first step is to select the desired treatment. And if we use our search, we can look at all of the pre-configured treatments, literally thousands and thousands to choose from. And upon purchasing the QuickQuote module, you're going to get a manual that goes and includes all the treatments, along with handy fabric calculation guides, accessories, etc. And here you can see is a copy of the manual with all the different treatments in there, and this goes on and on and on. Now, if I wanted to search for a particular treatment, I could just start typing. So there's our petal, or I could go shades and jump right down there. Let's use the old Abigail to 72 for our example today. Upon clicking choose, everything starts to happen for us. And we can see that the window is divided into two main areas. First, we go along our top, there's our item or group. We can put our location in. This is the standard locations for our Hilson project. Let's choose master bedroom. We have our sales category. And this would obviously be a window treatment. That in. And on these two sides of the window, we have what we call our treatment tree on the left-hand side. Then we have our specifications tab on the right. The treatment tree is going to have all the common components needed for the Abigail and are displayed, and the ones that were necessary are already selected for us, and they even have the appropriate quantities needed for that particular size. On the specifications tab, that's going to show all the corresponding information for the selected, let's call it node, on our treatment tree. Let's kind of work our way down here. So if I'm starting at the top level, this is really the treatment itself. The product description in this case is actually going to appear in the item window client descriptions. This is what's going to appear on the proposal, invoice, etc. So let's change this to Abigail window treatment. Next, we have our workroom instructions. And these are going to be the overall instructions for the treatment fabrication. And a little simple guideline is defaulted with the information commonly needed for the selected treatment, and therefore will be different for various fabrications. So this is what they have for Abigail, but other treatments will certainly be different. And you can enter the appropriate information or remove anything or add anything that you want. So mount type, let's just put some examples in here. Outside, face width, maybe 80. And if I don't need the rest of the information, I can just delete it or add anything that I might want to convey to the workroom for the treatment itself. Now we can include a picture of our window treatment as well. If I use the picture button, I can then actually load or select one right off of my computer. And there's an example of the Abigail curtains. But as I said before at the beginning of the demonstration, one of the benefits of QuickQuote is this wide treatment catalog that you're provided with, and they all have associated sample images that were handcrafted just for QuickQuote. So if I want to use their selection, I just click the Use Sample button, and there we go. Going down, we can see the totals for the item or treatment itself. We have one window treatment using our unit of measure of each. We can see our unit and extended cost and unit and extended prices. Now, there's already some information in here, but these are going to be dynamic. We're going to be entering in costs ourselves, so we'll see how this can automatically update for us. The workroom. This is going to be the vendor that's going to actually craft the fabrication for us. So let's take a look at our vendor search. I'm going to go by category, workroom, perfect, curtain calls. That's going to be the workroom on the item window workroom tab, the one who actually creates the window treatment for us. The ship to. This actually defaults from the default ship to of the Hilson project. You could change that, of course, if you wanted to come to your facility first, or perhaps a third-party deliverer was going to ship it out for you. You could change that. And this is going to correspond to the shipped finished project 2 on the item window, workroom tab. And we can even change the quantity. Perhaps we want 2 of these treatments. When we do, notice that the extended cost and list update for us, but what doesn't happen is the yardage and quantities along the treatment tree don't update. But when the treatment is imported into the project, the quantities will increase proportionally, as we're going to see a bit later in the discussion. And now let's go into the options level. And these represent really each of the components necessary to fabricate the treatment. And just for fabric, we can see that the Abigail is going to require some contrast fabric, the main fabric, and the piping. Let's begin with the main fabric. And just by selecting it, notice we have a message coming up. It says the workroom has changed, which it did. We put in the curtain calls workroom. Do you wish to update the ship to on all the components to match the CCWR workroom? Well, that's a critical component in creating a work order, as the ship to must equal, the ship to of the components has to be the workroom of the item itself. So this is a very handy feature. And if we click yes here, when we're on our main fabric, notice the ship to is already set to curtain calls workroom. Now with the components themselves, we're going to need to input particular information such as the fabric color and style, vendor, cost, etc. So let's say we have some fabric from Cravat. This is a sand color. These workroom instructions apply to the component itself, the fabric in this case. Maybe it's a unusual repeat or something along those lines. We have the quantity as described over in the treatment tree. Yards is the unit of measure. And let's imagine that the cost is, I don't know, 55, 53 per yard. And we can see that we're marking it up to gather our unit price, and then we have our extended cost and extended list. We could put in a picture of the fabric as well. Click our picture button, load. There's my sand fabric. Click OK, and I'm bringing that right in. Vendor, I said that was Kravit. Use Kravit as our vendor. Manufacturer's catalog number. This is very important in work order situations, as the workroom needs to often cross-check the catalog number to ensure they're using the proper merchandise. So I always recommend inputting the manufacturer's catalog number in such cases. -16. And we could even have some freight. This would be the freight on the fabric itself. 10, and we're ready to go. We even have the option for a CFA. If we need a example or a cut that we want to approve of the fabric, we could select it, and that would appear both on the purchase order and work order as well. And if we notice, let's go back to our treatment itself, that our cost has already increased to reflect what we've entered in on the main fabric option node. Let's put in some of our contrast. Let's say this is from Kravit as well. All right. How about our cost here? It's $41.93. Vendor is Kravit. Put in our catalog number. And we can even put our picture here as well. There's my obsidian fabric. Fantastic. And the piping. Cost here, $18.06. Got this from Kravit as well. Catalog number T30573.6. Grab our picture. And there we go. So see how easily, once I have my information, I can start inputting all of the different pieces of our treatment quickly into the QuickQuote module. Let's continue on going down our treatment tree here. And we can see our lining. We have some inner lining and we have some ivory lining as well. Notice here that I already have some cost and price information entered. Treatment options can be configured with a default cost and price, particularly when these amounts don't traditionally change often. And I can show you how to do so later in the webinar. And maybe curtain calls themselves is going to provide the inner lining. Well, they could be the vendor, just like they can be the ship to. And we can do the same for the lining. Back to the treatment tree, there's our labor. Obviously, curtain calls is going to be the vendor. In this situation, they're the one actually fabricating the treatment for us. Hardware and rods, decorative knobs. Now, it's important to remember, we don't need to fill in all the purchasing information at this point. If we don't know, which knobs we're going to order or from whom, we can just enter that information at a later time. So we don't have to put in a vendor here or a cost and price. We just know that we need to enter it. And I even leave the product description as the default, almost to remind myself down the road that I still need to figure out who I'm getting my knobs from. Down to business expenses, we have shipping. Let's imagine that there's going to be a ground charge. Maybe that's going to be a traditional $50. And I don't need to put a vendor here as well. Perhaps I'm not quite sure who's going to be doing this shipping, but I want to get my estimated values in. Do a handling charge as well. There we go. Again, the treatment tree is showing us what options that might be necessary to fully complete the treatment so I don't miss critical things like shipping and those which really do affect the bottom line. Installation, say the curtain calls is going to do that as well. Now, treatments can be complicated. So maybe I want to enter some information and then return to do some more work later on. And I want to make sure that all of my information is saved. Well, very easy. I can just highlight the treatment itself and click the store or Save button along the right-hand side of the treatment tree. On the Save QuickQuote specification window, I have a few options here. I can save to user defined, which we'll talk about momentarily, but I could also save to drafts. These are the ones that I'm currently working on. And I might want to change the name in case I have many current drafts going on. Let's call it, how about Hilson Master Bedroom Abigail 72. And I could even have more information in a note if desired. If I click OK, I've now very easily saved my draft. And I could actually leave the QuickQuote window. When I come back in later, I do my search. Now, on my search window, we have our type. This is the standard QuickQuote predefined treatments, but I could select from drafts. And there's my Abigail waiting for us. And just by hitting choose, all of our information that we've even updated is there for us. Only thing I need to remember to do is put back in the location, in the sales category, and any product description. These don't save in case there are changes. Window. Great. Now, there are, as I said, other ways to save. Perhaps I find this to be the absolute perfect template to use for any Abigail treatment. So I might want to save this in my user-defined, not my drafts area, which is sort of reserved for things I'm working on, but one that I'm customizing. So this might be Abigail 72 template or something along those lines. Click OK. And just like we saw on our drafts, now under user defined, I have my own template stored here. So I can create my own catalog. After customizing various treatments, I want them stored for myself here as well. Finally, there's even a history. Every time that we actually transfer the treatment from QuickQuote into the Design Manager specifications, we automatically store that for you. So then you can go back and take any treatment that you've used previously for an original client and use it again for another. So we're automatically storing treatments for you as well. So beyond the fact that you're already provided with this vast library of treatments, you have the ability to create your own unlimited user-defined ones and even historical ones as well. Now, okay, after we've entered all the necessary information into the QuickQuote module, all we need to do is transfer the treatment to the project itself, as I was alluding to. To do so, very easy. Just click the OK button, and you're going to be asked, are you sure that you'd like to create item or items into this project? By clicking yes, well, we have a warning. Please remove the check mark from the top treatment options or check one of the options underneath it. This is an example of the innate cross-checking possible within QuickQuote. Now, the Abigail treatment usually requires a top treatment. So I either need to remove the top treatment selection or add one. And let's say I go ahead and add some, oh, I don't know, trim hem. And we'll make the vendor here curtain calls as well. Now, upon clicking OK, saying yes to transfer, I'm allowed to, and just like that, we have our item in our project for our Abigail window treatment. And at this point, now that we've transferred into the project, we wouldn't use the QuickQuote module any longer for this particular window treatment. We've done all of the speccing out in that module, and now we're back into our specifications. So let's see how the item appears. Like I said, we have our client description as the Abigail window treatment. We have our location and sales category, our quantity and unit of measure. Look at all these components that were created automatically for us. On the Workroom tab, Curtain Calls is our vendor, our workroom vendor. Our Ship Finished Project 2 was our Ship To on our QuickQuote module. And there's our workroom instructions. And now, as time goes on, we can even input some more information. Recall that we hadn't yet decided on our decorative knobs, no vendor, etc. We can go ahead, edit the component, and let's say we're getting these from, I don't know, Restoration Hardware perhaps. And maybe they're 30 each. So now our components are working just like you're used to. They're traditional components in there. Lastly, notice, remember in our QuickQuote module, the treatment had 6 knobs, but as we selected a quantity of 2 for 2 window treatments, Design Manager updated all of our yardage and all of the necessary quantities for the hardware, etc. So even though it doesn't update on the treatment tree as we saw, upon converting into the project specifications themselves, all the quantities will update for us, again, making our mathematics and everything very easy for us. And from here, we're just using the natural functions in Design Manager. I can go ahead and make a proposal for our window treatment. Jump under our Project tab, Documents, Proposals, put in our project. Let's add a new proposal. Change the name. How about a Master Bedroom Window Treatments? Sounds good. Today's date is just fine, modern. I'm going to go ahead and select my treatment. Click OK. And there we go. Just like that. Now it's just acting as a traditional item in Design Manager. And there's our accept the proposal. Similarly, we can make our purchase and work orders. So if we go down to our project PO and work orders, grab our Hilson project. Let's make the purchase orders for Kravit and Restoration Hardware first. So we can do an add PO. Let's use our tag option here. We'll select tag by proposal. Grab our master bedroom window treatment. We immediately select all of our necessary components for both of the vendors. And there's our 2 POs. So now we're ordering all of our fabric from Kravit. It's going to be shipped off to Curtain Calls, which makes sense. And same for Restoration Hardware. There they are. Then we can even make the work order for Curtain Calls workroom as well. Click our Add Workroom. Let's go ahead and select all. Now notice we don't yet have a vendor with the shipping charges, so we'll add those later. That's absolutely fine. Everything else is selected for us, necessary to create the work order. Click OK. There's our generated work order window. And here's our work order document. Curtain Calls is the workroom. That's going to be shipped directly to the Hilson. There's our main treatment image as we saw. Our overall workroom instructions, the title or description of the workroom, and then all of the components. We can see the obsidian fabric coming from Kravit. The workroom's going to know where it's coming from, who to contact about it, the catalog number, as I said, so they can cross-check. They have an image as well to make sure everything looks correct. We can see our other fabric. Everything that we're ordering from everything that Curtain Calls is providing for us, like the ivory interlining, the ivory lining, the labor, that's showing our cost here too. So the work order is acting as a de facto purchase order in those cases. And there's our grand totals. And there we go. So the beauty of the QuickQuote is not only all the pre-configured treatments for you, but it's the ease of use of quickly pulling up a treatment, making a few adjustments here and there, putting in some cost, figuring out some fabric, but it provides that beautiful framework that allows you to easily translate that into the items and components in Design Manager as you're used to working with. Now, I quickly went through the concept of making a proposal and purchase and work orders. If that's unfamiliar to you or you want some more information, of course, be sure to go to our YouTube channel at Design Manager Inc., Design Manager INC, and focus on our Project Management Course 1 for proposals and our Project Management Course 2 for purchase and work orders, where I go into much, much greater detail on those topics. Now, besides the functionality that we observed already with QuickQuote, there's a few company defaults that allow you to really configure it to best suit your needs. And they are accessed under our File, Company Information and Settings, and you can see QuickQuote has its own tab listed here. First, let's focus on our QuickQuote defaults or treatment options. So we can create options. So let's take a look at our various shipping expenses. We saw these on our window treatment, the ground charge, handling charge, oversize, truck, etc. Maybe we want another one for rush shipping, perhaps. Well, just click the Add button as indicated by the green plus sign. Let's call this rush shipping. Default description, additional charge for rush shipping. Let's say the cost of that, I don't know, maybe 50. And then we have some other information here. We have two ways to charge the client. We can say always default to the project's markup, so regardless of what percentage is in here, the terms that I have with each particular project will determine the overall estimated price. Or if I always want it to be marked up or costed at a certain percentage, I can use the default to this markup, which would ignore the project's markup and always use what's indicated here. I could override the project deposit percentage. That currently is a default of 50, but perhaps I want 100 or 75 or none in those cases. Or I can even say what particular sales category do I want to use. Let's imagine that I always want this to go with freight would be a logical choice. Click OK, and there we can see we have a brand new rush shipping option. And you can see all of your different selections that you can customize, input your default cost and rates, those types of things, remove ones that you don't want, etc. You can always edit some if you wanted to. Oops. Other options on our QuickQuote company information tab. Notice we have the ability to, let's call it map or select various types to the Design Manager component types. So if we look at our shipping, we might want anything entitled freight or shipping in QuickQuote to map to the freight component type. Same with any types of installation. You can see all of our installation types here are going to go to our installation labor component type, as well as any laborers will also go to that type. So you have a way to map what QuickQuote considers a classification or designation of an item type and direct it to the appropriate Design Manager component type. Lastly, there's even an option for create a separate line item for each treatment component. Let's go ahead and select that and notice the difference. In our example, original example, we were not using the create separate line items. We had a single item that we could propose to the client that was comprised of many various components. But if we use the single item option, let's go back to our QuickQuote. Let's use our Abigail 72 again. Actually, let's just grab it from our drafts or our user defined. There's our custom version. Master bedroom, window, product description. Now notice, in this case, upon creating it to the project, options, oh, let's add our hem. Here we go. Rather than our singular window treatment, each of the treatment tree options comes in as its own item. So if a particular client wants everything to be itemized or enumerated on the proposal and invoice, you can configure QuickQuote to do that as well. So now rather than one item with a multitude of components, each is listed as its own singular item rather than one item that we used before. And then of course we could still propose and make our purchase orders in the exact same manner. So it really gives you the flexibility and freedom to input your specifications from QuickQuote in the manner that any client desires. Lastly, another feature of QuickQuote. Quite frequently, you may have your tablet or your computer out with your client and using your Design Manager Cloud, you might want to sort of craft a treatment on the fly to give the client some general idea of what something may be costing them. We call that our ballpark estimate. So let's see how that works. Perhaps we're going to use another window treatment. Just grab anyone. Upon clicking the ballpark estimate option, notice the cost and vendor information goes away along the main, and freight as well. All the merchandise cost and freight cost is removed. So then I can start inputting pricing information. Let's say it's for our accent fabric, let's say it's $50 list. I could put in my contrast, that's 45. Main fabric is 100. The clients aren't seeing the cost whatsoever. All they're seeing is how we're generally going to be creating this window treatment for them. What they'll ultimately be charged, not our costs from our vendors. So the ballpark estimate allows you to give the client, allows you to work with the client without them having any idea of what the costs from the vendors may be, but ultimately what their round figures prices would be for a particular treatment. A very convenient feature, particularly when you're sitting down with the client and really working with them hand in hand. And with that, that brings us to our end of our discussion on the optional QuickQuote module in Design Manager Cloud. And it's, in general, QuickQuote's a really handy additional feature that provides an extremely accurate and efficient way of designing any fabricated good that you're going to provide to your client. It includes thousands of the configured treatments that we saw, and with all those custom handmade images from which to choose. I showed how easy it is to create a treatment, customize it to your client's needs, and then just simply import the information into the project. At that point, you can make your proposals and orders as you're traditionally aware. I even reviewed saving and creating your own treatments, using the history to retrieve past treatments, and finally the ballpark estimate feature to work on a potential fabrication with your client without displaying any of the sensitive cost information. And with that, I thank everyone for joining the discussion today, and I hope you would join another of our free webinars in the near future. Take care and have a great day.